Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dairy Raid on a foggy Monday morning for another walk and talk video. We are in off-season mode because for the first time in 20 years, the Badgers aren't going to a bowl game. It is what it is. So, if anything, it's going to give us a lot to talk about over the next however many months it is until we get back to the regular season. And not happy about it. I don't think anybody is. But this will be one of the most pivotal off seasons in Wisconsin history because a lot of moves need to be made to finish the job that was the rebuilding process of Wisconsin football. And we got a lot of work to do. So, as always, ask for questions from you guys during the week, or actually after the game on Tuesday, I cannot get the days right this morning, on Friday. And got some good ones, got 5 of them that we're going to go through today. And let's just get started. All right, and the first one is, and I love this one, is why do some teams use the clap for the cadence and some don't? I think it's more because why does a team like Wisconsin use the clap is the question we're getting after. And what are its advantages? Well, so for those of you who aren't paying attention, what you're seeing, instead of a quarterback giving your traditional blue 88 set hut, anything like that, quarterback is clapping and the ball snapped. Simple, short, effective, and it gets the job done. But why? Well, it all started back in, I think it was 2011, 2012, when Sonny Dykes, who is now at TCU, was a head coach at Louisiana Tech. And his offensive coordinator, Tony Franklin, were looking for ways to speed up their offense. They were running a very fast no-huddle version of the air raid. And so what they saw was, usually what happens is quarterback addresses the line of scrimmage. They make some signals, make some calls. The offensive line makes calls. There's a pause, and then the cadence starts. And what they realized is they could save a lot of time in their no-huddle process by moving all of the signals that the quarterback gives, or the majority of them, to hand signals from the sideline. So that's why you see a lot of the air raid teams, or even high-speed teams anyways, the majority of the teams looking to the sideline for a lot of the time in between plays. They're getting play call, they're getting adjustments, everything like that. Then to speed up the process, instead of there having to be a delay from when the center is done giving his line call adjustments to the line, and then for the quarterback to start the cadence, they just give the cadence to the center. Another thing that I really like about it is when you take away the cadence from the quarterback, especially when he's under center, or in shotgun, everyone sees the quarterback. Everyone sees his mouth. Everyone sees the rhythm of his breathing, everything like that. So even if you have a really complicated cadence sequence, it can be relatively easy to time it if you know what to look for. When you move the cadence to the center, that's all eliminated because nobody can see him. nobody's looking at him, it's very hard to get some timing off of the center. So that can be very disruptive for a defense, even if the center is relatively rhythmic with when he snaps. And a good center in this type of system isn't rhythmic. He does it at random times. So that's another step. And then when you take that and you expand it into these stadiums with 50, 60, 70,000, 80, 90, 100,000 people, and you can't hear anything anyways, the clap is a sound that pierces crowd noise. The visual of a clap gives something that everybody can see. And when you combine those two to basically a silent count, you're left with a very very effective system that gets all the information you need to the players and can get the ball off quickly. I started using the clap cadence in 2014, and in 2015, 2016, 2017, I had 0 false starts. And in the subsequent years, only time that I usually will get a false start, and I'll get 1 or 2 a year now, is when I have a change of QB and he's not used to the rhythm of the clap, or I have players who get jumpy because they're new and they're not used to the rhythm of the clap. That's about it. It's a really effective system and has really simplified things for me. Next question, and this is a question I've gotten a lot, and a lot of Badger fans have been talking about last few weeks, and that is, why didn't Mabry Mettauer play specifically against Nebraska and Minnesota? And the simple answer is, he was not ready. And those of you who are saying, well, could anything be any worse than Braden Locke? He is the worst quarterback since fill in the blank. One, you obviously don't watch a lot of Wisconsin football, because what you saw from Braden Locke was classic Wisconsin football quarterback play. The only thing that was missing from that was a running back who's going to run for 2,000 yards behind him. Look at the numbers. How similar his play in Big Ten play was compared to previous quarterbacks. But they had the benefit of having one of the greatest running backs in college football history to pick up the slack. Just saying. But I want it to be clear, and we need to remember this too this season when Carter Smith comes in, it is exceedingly rare for a true freshman to come in and be physically, mentally, and emotionally and intellectually ready to start a college football game, let alone in the Big Ten, which everyone has been telling me the defenses are way better in the Big Ten. So you're actually adding fuel against your own argument. We haven't seen much of Mabry Mettauer, but the glimpses we got of him in practice in the spring and in the fall, like a lot of young players, he looked nervous in the service. He looked a little thin. And he wasn't ready. I'm sorry, people. The third string quarterback was not ready to ascend to the starting role. And I also think, out of respect for Mabry, they wanted to preserve his red shirt, whether that's here in Madison or for somewhere else. And if you look short term, let's say the Badgers did make a bowl game. And they wanted to play him. They didn't want to burn his red shirt. So they would rather wait until potentially the bowl game where they have a month to build him up. I know the rules allow him to play in the bowl game without affecting his red shirt. But playing on the road at Nebraska for your first collegiate start and then playing in a rivalry game in the coldest weather in Wisconsin in, was it 60 years for a football game for a kid from Texas, it's not the right time. You could do more damage to his psyche and to his football career by playing him in games like that than you would by playing him. If you're going to play him, you play him against Western Michigan. So, I know that's not the answer a lot of people want to hear, but it is really that simple. He wasn't ready. I don't think anybody was disagreeing with that. I think if anybody in the coaching staff thought otherwise, the second Phil Longo was fired, he would have played. The fact that he didn't lets you know all you need to know about Mabrey Mettauer. All right, so next question, and speaking of quarterbacks, is which quarterbacks should we and will we be targeting in the transfer portal? Well, that's a two-part. I'm going to give you a two-part non-answer for that. One, we don't know which QBs are going to be available in the transfer portal. It's actually going to be a three-part no answer for this. We don't know what QBs are going to be in the transfer portal. We don't know what our QB room is looking like going into the transfer portal. And we don't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. The Badgers need to pick up at least one quarterback in the transfer portal. That is a given based on just the fact that Cole LaCrue transferred. So we need another scholarship quarterback. But it's all going to depend on how many quarterbacks we have coming back. If we want to say right now we're even, we're losing one, we're adding one. We're losing one, we're adding two. But TVD could seek a medical red shirt and come back for one more year. And then the fallout of, does Braden Locke transfer? If Braden Locke transfers, then Landon is not going to sign. Does Mabrey Mettauer transfer? It's a lot of what ifs. So I'm going to reserve calling for a specific quarterback until I hear who's coming out and what we need. I will say with the transfer portal though, and I did mention this on Twitter last night. If you want to preview the type of quarterback I'm looking for, I have a couple criteria. Number one, I don't want to have a quarterback who's listed as multiple formers. Meaning, I don't want to see the former Auburn and the former Middle Tennessee and the former yada yada yada, multiple schools. I don't want to look for a kid who either can't make up his mind, is glory hopping, whatever you want to see. I want to find a young guy who has some skill, who's buried on a depth chart. Or a vet who, like a Russell Wilson, is being told he is going to be passed over for a younger model. Something like that. A kid who's coming in with no baggage. I want a quarterback, when I hear his announcement or read his announcement, that the reporter who is reporting the transfer does not say that he learned the information from the player's agent. The Leon Lowry situation has completely soured me on agents. I know they're important to the process, and I'm not saying that they're not, but I don't want to hear about them. A good agent is an agent who does his work in the background, not one who needs to be out in the open. And then finally, I don't want to hear about his high school star ratings unless he's coming in as a redshirt freshman or true sophomore. Like, if the kid is a redshirt junior, I don't care that he was a 4-star 3 years ago. Has zero effect. I want to know what he's done for me lately. And if lately is 3 years ago, that's too late. So that's what I'm looking for in quarterbacks. All right, so next up, and the question is, who were some positive players or players who we are looking positively toward next season? It's going to be hard for people to believe me when I say this, but there are quite a few on both sides of the ball that I am really looking forward to see in expanded roles and to build off the roles that they had this season. We'll start with the obvious, and that is the offense and the running back room. I'm really excited about the running back room. You know, Darian Dupree, Dylan Jones, Cade Yakimelli, those three right there is a solid, talented group. Now, obviously, the big bugaboo at the end of the season was why did Cade Yakimelli not get a lot of playing time? Don't know. Don't care. I mean, again, it comes down to the idea that they wanted to get away from the running back by committee, and he was Tui Walker's direct backup. So you take the direct backup out of the equation and you play the role player. That's sometimes how it works. But regardless, he could be in position to be the starter next year, the early down back. Darian Dupree, again, showing his ability in the passing game in an open space, is going to be a solid change of pace. And third down back, Dylan Jones, is real solid, real stout. Love the way he runs. You know, that core right there gives us something to be positive about. Then you got Gideon Atuka coming in, who I love. I love the way that kid runs. He's a bowling ball. And what the great thing about this group is, with the exception of Cade Yakimelli, it's young. It could be there for the next 2-3 years after this. So it's the solid foundation that we haven't had in a long time. Yeah, we've had a guy, but we've never had, I mean, when is the last time that Wisconsin had a stable of running backs? You know, back in the day when Melvin Gordon was leading the way, he still had Corey Clement behind him. And when James White was leading the charge, he had Melvin Gordon and Corey Clement. You know, it was either a 2 or 3 headed monster. And I think we're going to have that this year. Vinny Anthony stepping up and becoming the deep threat that the Badgers never had. And he finally learned how to get off press coverage. I think he did a great job growing this year. I'm going to put credit on Kenny Guyton for that. There was some significant improvement there, like seeing that. I'm really happy to see some of the young offensive linemen got playing time and showed that tenacity, you know, that they were physically ready to play college football. So that's, you know, great. It's great to hear. Great to see. Defensively, there's a lot of young talent around that is ready to get some more playing time and show flashes. Obviously, Xavier Lucas is hopefully going to be a stud in our defensive backfield for the next 2 seasons. I'm only saying 2 seasons because he's going to the NFL after his junior year. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that. Christian Allegro, obviously, being a beast tackling, especially the second half of the season when there's so many injuries in the linebacking core. Dylan Johnson, getting in the defensive line rotation and butting out upperclassmen as a true freshman, when you could tell he was slightly undersized, yet he was still performing. So that's all positive. And then we have a couple guys that, we heard about in camp and end up getting hurt, like Thomas Heiberger, who will be in position for an expanded role this coming season, because obviously, so far Leon Lowry is transferred. I'm pretty sure Aaron Witt is out of eligibility. Wouldn't be surprised if there's some more depth loss because of the portal. So a lot of young guys going to get some playing time next year, and I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, and we're going to leave the big question for last. And despite the Badgers playing one of the most difficult schedules they've played in years, it was really bad. Why did this team underperform so much? Well, I don't know if underperform is the right word. Especially defensively, I think this is one of the least talented Badgers teams we've had in 30 years. And again, it's like, I know it feels like I'm assigning blame to the previous coaching staff to mask problems, but you look at the 2021 recruiting class and how vaunted it was, 16th in the nation in recruiting numbers, and with some notable exceptions, has been just bad, has transferred out, has underperformed, and now those guys are our upperclassmen. So when your team is led by a bunch of underperformers and underachievers, do you expect them to be good? You have a combination of that. You have a combination of still trying to buy in to a change in system and a change of philosophy. And at the end of the day, when you add bad software to hardware that can't run it, this is what happens. And this is why you get flashes of brilliance followed by just pits of despair. There were some fantastic defensive performances that were killed by terrible offensive performances. Other than that 3-game stretch in the middle of the season, I don't think we ever quite meshed the offense and the defense performing at the same time. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, and I'll keep saying it. That 3-game stretch was the type of stretch that was extended to 5, 6, 7 games back in the Big Ten West era that would get the Badgers into the Big Ten championship game. Because back then, the Rutgers, Northwesterns, and the Purdues of the Big Ten were joined by the Illinois and the Indianas, and the Badgers would end up playing Maryland, and then they would lose the games against the Michigans and the Penn States and the Ohio States. And that's exactly what they did this year. They lost to those equivalents now. But they underperformed because Simply, the players sucked, and the coaches could not turn chicken shit into chicken salad. Now, it's their job to do that, and they didn't. So, that leads us, what is the next step? Well, obviously 2025 is going to be the make or break year for Luke Fickell. He needs to go scorched earth. If he is having any thoughts like I am, that there are players who are still not buying into the system, and that he just does not have the right pieces, and you can hear that he is ready to move on and make some significant changes. If you read the exit interview that Leon Lowry did when he left, you're going to gain pretty good insight into the direction the Badgers defense wants to go next year. They've got to go scorched earth, and it's replacing players that don't fit systematically, that don't fit culturally, and can help the team win now. We're done with underachievers, and it's why Deion Sanders was able to turn a one-win Colorado team into what they are now in 2 seasons, and why Curt Szigeti at Indiana was able to do the same thing. Curt Szigeti brought in 20 players from James Madison Sun Belt team, picked the right quarterback also in the transfer portal, and built his Indiana around players he knew who would exactly fit his system regardless of their star rating. And I think that's what Luke Fickell's got to do. I think he's picked a couple good ones in the transfer portal for his defense, and this year he just needs to clean house, and instead of trying to fit round squares or round pegs into square holes, he needs to get rid of those round pegs and go big or go home, because if he doesn't, he's not going to have a job next year, and we're starting over again. And that's what it's going to be. All right, so those are the 5 questions I got. Thank you, everyone, for sending those in. And now that we are in the off-season portion of Wisconsin football and the end of the second year of the Dairy Raid, I want to take a second before I wrap this up to thank everybody for your viewership, your readership, for some of you, your patronage of the Dairy Raid in 2024. I know it was a year that wasn't easy for any of us, especially me. Filled with ups and downs, everything in between. Obviously, the football season didn't go the way that we expected it to. But through your encouragement and your support, we kept it going. And overall, our numbers are up. Overall, I can kind of see a path going forward to how we're going to improve things for 2025. Opening up some doors for some new opportunities in 2025. So there's a lot more to come, and a lot of great things coming for the Dairy Raid. So I hope you look forward to that, and I look forward to bringing it to you. And we'll end with this, with question number 6 that hasn't been asked, but would probably be asked. Is there going to be a Minnesota breakdown? Nope. We're done with breakdowns for 2024. There's nothing we're going to learn from the Minnesota game. The next breakdown you're going to see is going to be me breaking down video clips of the next offense the Badgers are bringing in. I'm looking forward. I'm not looking back. And that's it. I'm tired of getting angry watching film. I get paid to do that, and I'm not going to do that in my free time. So, sorry, no Minnesota breakdown. But a lot more to come from the Dairy Raid. More of these. You guys keep asking questions. I'll keep walking and talking. If you got ideas of content you want to see in the off season, please feel free to reach out, because we're not going anywhere. The dairy raid is here to stay. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.